Hey everyone, welcome to the Saturday morning stand-up. This is Bronze Dragon. Kicking it off, we are live now, just checking my mic levels. Everything appears to be good. Let me know if you cannot hear me. We're going to go ahead and dive right in. I'm going to use the town hall notes as kind of a topic list to go by, but I anticipate that today the main topic is going to be land, because that is the big thing this week, and I've dove into land, even though I've only claimed two pieces, and I went ahead and surveyed those this week, so we can talk about that as we go along. I did make a video if you want to check it out to get the full details, but we can talk about that. So we'll just go ahead and jump into the town hall notes. Now, to start off with, the town hall had a large section from David from Double Coconut. If you're not familiar with Double Coconut, they are developing the tower defense game. And just checking my levels. I like the idea of it. I love tower defense games. I'm not so hot about this due mainly to the artwork, but I have bought a few packs, but I didn't get into the beta because I did not buy 500 packs. That's a pretty large purchase, and they are currently in the closed beta, and he discussed that. I'm not going to go into it in detail. If you want to check it out, you can go back to the town hall link and watch that first, I guess, 20 minutes of the town hall of him discussing it. We can talk about that in the future when it's released, and I can dive in and get my opinion on that, but we'll go forward from there. Next up, Cryptomancer gave a discussion about quality of life improvements for guilds, several changes. As you can see on a weekly basis, the UI is changing. Definitely improving for the better, I think. Sometimes resulting in a, hey, where'd that button go, and this kind of thing. But generally the changes are positive, I think. So they then went over Splinterlands TV and started talking about that. They're really pushing hard on Splinterlands TV, really putting a lot, I don't know as far as into budget, but they definitely have a lot of people streaming. They say they have 24/7 coverage. So, and they are giving out a decent amount of cards during the last few months. So if you have a little bit of time, I would suggest you check out some of the streams and possibly win some cards. They point out that in April, they will be giving away 100 gold foil Vruz and more than 2,000 Vruz in total. So next up, investigators started talking about land. And this is kind of what the main portion of this broadcast is going to be about, because we all got to dive into land this week. I think that a lot of people have been waiting a long time for this, specifically me. I first found out about land when I first started the game like 2 years ago. At that point, when I first started, land was still available. It was $20 a pop. And at that point, I was getting into buying cards, selecting which splinters I wanted to play, trying to figure out my strategy. There was a lot to it, so land was kind of low on my radar. I did see it, and I contemplated buying a plot of land at that point, but I fell behind and they sold out. So I did end up buying a plot of land like the week after they sold out. I got a plot of land for like $35. The price had already risen from $20 to $35 in the span of a week. So you can tell that. And then from there, I mean, it was less, within 6 months, the price was $150. And I think at one point the price of plots has been above $200. So I think that is really just kind of on the gambling side of things. So people, it's kind of like opening a pack. You buy a plot and you pay this exorbitant amount, and you're hoping that you get an epic or something really nice. But what we're seeing, and we can talk about this further in the rest of the show, seeing the prices of land kind of go down for commons, because between 80 and 85% of lands are commons when they're opened up. So a lot of people are paying $150 for a plot of land, finding it's common, and then selling it. And last I looked, they were going for about $70. Let's go ahead and look over on Peak Monsters on the land market. Let's refresh, make sure we're... So it's sitting around $65 for the lowest common land. And for rares, they're going for about 90 and up. So epics, 235. Legendaries up around $1,000 US, and mythics above $3,000 US. So kind of crazy. With that said, let's go back. But this basically gives you the screenshot. If you had not claimed or surveyed land, this is the survey land screen. If you are unaware, to prepare, part of the preparation for surveying is deciding whether you want one of these survey boosts. And if you've already prepared for that and bought DECB or batteries can be used in this situation. I chose to go with the building in the box on my two lands. I did not choose to use Time Vault or the unstable totems. I have common totems to place on my land, so I didn't feel the need for the unstable totems. And the Time Vault, while it may prove me wrong going forward in the future, it didn't exhibit enough value to me for to put more DEC into that. So with that said, on this screen, what you do is this is the screen that comes up when you press survey on a land that you've already claimed. And at this point you add the building in the box, Time Vault or unstable totem, and then you go ahead and confirm, and you survey the land and you find out what you got. In my case, I got a common, and let's go check it out. This is the land screen. So these are my two lands. Up here, Gilith number 12, tract 8 is a common. And it is a desert common, natural type. Okay. Now my second plot was a little bit better. And I have to go back. I'm still learning this UI. It's not really user-friendly, in my opinion. So the second one was a rare lake. Let's scroll down. Okay, this is it. It's a magic earth, and it's a lake rare. So that's a pretty decent pull. I think they're going for about $200 to $300 US dollars now. But I was kind of psyched to get it. And during this week, I've been preparing and trying to figure out what cards I want to stake on it. Going forward, they also showed some different artwork about the, what you see. It's like a card, but it's the card for your land. And it tells you, the type of land, and who the owner is, the rarity, and if there are any active boosts on it, such as if you bought the building in a box or the unstable totem, etc. They then discussed the SPS, the tech modernization topic, and they are continually changing things around in the UI. They're changing the SPS management page, and I mean, every week things are changing. So I think generally everything's getting better. The UI is getting more fleshed out as far as user friendliness. But you may find in certain situations that you don't know where a button went, so you have to search around for it for a little while. So they just talk about a few more changes, general updates. Then Weirdbeard, Nate, and Agro all talk about land and land surveying, which is kind of what we've been talking about today. Let's go back to the land section. So let me check my notice here. Okay, one of the main topics I wanted to talk about is on the white paper, and that is the discussion around production points and production terrain preferences. So one of the big things I found myself thinking about this week after I surveyed my land and found out indeed what types of land I had, I needed to think about what cards I was going to put on those land types as staking, right? So when you're doing that, the first thing you have to do is you have to look at the terrain preferences grid, okay? So for instance, I have a lake, so I look at the lake line here, and I find that if I use water or if I use earth, I get plus 10% on the production. If I use life, death, or neutral, it's net even. And if I use fire or dragon, it's minus 50%. So obviously, I want to go with water and earth. Now, with that decision made, then you go to the production points grids, and you start thinking about what actual cards, you know what splinters you're going to use, but you want to think about what actual cards you're going to choose to stake on those. Because once you choose the cards, each card's going you're going to have to pay a certain amount of DEC staked to stake that card. So they've already discussed and stated that a maximum level card is going to be 10,000 DEC to stake. Now, if it's not max level, it's some percentage there under, but basically you're going to have DEC to stake these cards. So it would behoove you to make it as good a value card as you can find or you can afford to stake. Up in the air, and what I still don't know is that if you unstake a card to, say, change it to another card, do you immediately get that staked DEC back? is there a certain time period in which you don't get, it's a certain time period where it takes to come back to you? I just don't know if you can, say I have card X and I want to change it for card Y staked. Can I just unstake it and then restake the new one with the same DEC? I don't know this yet, and I don't think they've stated that yet, so that remains to be seen. So with that said, the first thing you would look at is probably the set matrix. And the set matrix obviously gives you most points for, I think the most points go towards gold foil, right? But with that said, the best multiplier you can get is with alpha cards. Now, the alpha cards, the alpha core and promo cards associated with alpha will give you a 10 times base multiplier. The beta, core, promo, reward, and orb cards related to beta will give you 5 times, and untamed will give you 2 times. And the newest will be net even. And by net even, I mean this matrix. You will see a regular max level common will give you 1,000 production points. A max level gold common will give you 2,000, and so forth. I'm not going to read off every number here, but you can see this is in the white paper. A regular foil max level legendary will give you 1,500. And a gold max level legendary will give you 10,000. So I think it's very obvious that if you can afford, the best cards to stake would be maximum level gold foils, whether they be the newest, untamed, beta, or alpha. So theoretically, I guess the best card you can stake, other than the Rooney, which they've stated some other bonuses of having a Rooney, such as not having to have a power source. But say, for instance, if you had a gold foil max level alpha, couldn't even imagine how much that cost, but you would get 10,000 times 10 would be 100,000 production points. So most of us are not going to be able to afford that, though. And then over here on the right, they tell you, they break it down to 1 BCX. But I think in the big picture of things, when you do your decision making, you should kind of think about it from the max level card and try to go from there, because it would make your math a lot easier. Obviously, with the numbers of cards involved, not everybody's going to have max level cards staked. Hey, Gathering, welcome. Good to see you. I was talking to myself for a long time. But I've basically just been discussing land, and I started talking about the matrices of production points and how I've been thinking about the cards that I'm going to stake on my lands, which have, which I've surveyed this week. So just pitch in your opinions, but I think that all of us who have put money into land have looked at these matrices and started giving thought to the cards that we are going to stake, and how much money we want to spend on the cards, and what's the best value, and what our strategy is. Because I went into it, and like I said, I have 2 lands. One is a common, which I'm not so concerned about now, because I think on commons, that's a different strategy I want to discuss. But my rare, Gathering says, best cost per point is 1 BCX gold foil legendary. I did a video on the cost ratio. Yeah, I have not seen that video. I do need to watch it. So basically, obviously, alpha and beta commons are great too. Yeah, I was tossing back and forth in my head whether to go with like common betas. Just go in with a common beta, max it out, and I think those were like 5,500 points, production points. And I think at that point I was looking at it, we were talking about 80 US dollars. And I started looking at some of the gold foils. Obviously, let's see here. 1 BCX gold foil legendary will get you 2,500, right? And that's just flat value. That's not if it's one of the multipliers. Gathering says you will get 2,500 points for 2,500 stake DEC for a gold foil legendary. I hadn't thought about it that way, and frankly, you're better at the math than I am rather. So I will have to look at it that way. I'll have to take that into account. Frankly, I've only bought 2 cards so far. My best land, if you watch the video, is a magic lake, and it's earth. So that dictates that I use earth or water cards. So I went in and, for good choice or not, I went in and bought I bought a max level Jin Bilka, and I bought a max level Jin Oshanis, because frankly I love Jin Oshanis, so don't give me an excuse to buy another one, right? So and those were my first 2 cards for staking. Yeah, I think they'll get me 1,500 a piece, which is not great, but we're only talking $15 to $20 cards. So if you're saying a 1 BCX or even 2 BCX gold foil, so let's go to the market just for sake of argument here, since we're discussing this, and oh no. Let's check out gold foil. Go down to the bottom. Well, let's sort by legendary. Okay, so in my case, if I did, to your point, if I did Jin Bilka, and 1 BCX is $68 currently, that will get me 2,500 production points versus the max level regular Jin Bilka, which I bought for like $15, got me 1,500. So 1,000 more, and that's roughly like 3 times the cost, maybe 4. Another thing to talk about, though, is that we are quickly going to start seeing the card prices rise. And I would imagine, I was looking at land earlier because that's a different topic. I'm watching the land prices. And just to kind of slightly get off topic here, one of my thought processes, let me throw this at you. Okay, so I've got one decent land, a rare magic land, right? Should I spend a bunch of money and put a bunch of nice cards staked on it? Or would the better money be spent buying another land or 2 and putting commons on it, like max level commons? Just spam max level commons, say maybe not really cheap commons, but you know what I mean, and just have more land, but not as high level cards staked on those lands. Most people will have commons and rares, so most plots will have 5,000 to 7,500 production points. Yeah, whenever I was starting to calculate back and forth the cards that I was going to choose, I quickly saw that most of the cards, if you went max level cards, were going to be around that 5,500 to 6,500 points. Gathering says, totems, runeys will greatly help. I have common totems, so I believe those will get an extra 10%. Plus, I believe the magic, those people who are lucky enough to get a magic land, I think that's an extra 100%. So we'll see how that works out. But I wanted to look at beta commons. And since I was looking at water or earth, we'll do normal. From the whole beta, let's refresh this page. So I want the beta set, which includes all the beta sets. And let's go with earth and water. And just look at commons. And just do, for instance here. So let's sort. And let's just do on the cheapest one. Okay, so this one, it takes 505. You know what? When I was doing the math the other day, yesterday, so a max level beta common, $107. But the interesting part was, what I was finding is I think the rares are a better value, because if you go in here, it only takes 115. See, you can get a max level beta era rare for less than the common currently. I think epics it jumps up a lot though, because I was really looking at Brownie too, because Brownie's also a great Splinterforge card. So with the epics it takes 46, and I believe it's going to jump up to like $150, $126. So these are all things that are jumping around my head. Gathering says common magical plots are currently undervalued. Magical plots produce one of two resources. You need to create items and spells. Watch the prices of these go to 300 plus. I believe that to be true as well, because the one I have is magic, and I was thinking about buying another one, and I was really wondering about what the value of these are, since they've you know, it's all speculative, right? But I do believe that I got a pretty good deal. Now, my brother got a common magical, which I said, hey, it's better than just being a straight common, right? So my basic thought process was, you know, at this point in time, I want to make a move. But I was looking at commons and wondering, should I, would it make sense to, whenever I see like a, you know, 5 commons, contiguous commons in one area, and the price is hit like $25, scoop those up, throw all like max level commons of some sort on there to mine them, or would the better money be towards just looking for magical plots of land currently, scooping those up and just having only a 2 or 3 and just concentrating on those, versus going deep versus going wide. Occupied will be 600 plus soon. Wish I could get even a common one. Let's see what they are going for. Let's select occupied. So it looks like the cheapest one on the market currently, common, $500. Yeah, I agree with you. I knew those when they first said those were going to be the rarest. But I mean, I do think that, and you know, I've always been excited about this whole land game and the cheapest way to get into the land game is really going in with commons. But I was just thinking along the thought process of, so say for instance you see this. This guy or this person is selling a bunch of commons, and they all appear to be contiguous in the same area, right? So if this price comes down to $25, does it make good sense to scoop up 5 or 10 of them and then just throw max level commons on there to mine each one of those, and just go at it from a, you know, go wide standpoint, having several different commons, several different sections of commons around the map. So 10 commons here, 10 commons there, 10 commons there, versus just having a couple really expensive lands, you know, as far as magical or occupied, and on those specific lands going in deep with expensive like gold foil or beta cards to mine them for what they're worth. Obviously, this is all speculation, but these are the things that are running through my head when I'm trying to decide what I'm doing with my land, because I still have one plot of land that I haven't claimed yet, and I would like that to be in the last area of the map, the dragon area. Let's go to maps. Well, that was an interesting point. Look, 24-hour volume, over $43,000 worth of volume of land purchases and sales. So it's pretty heavy land action this week. So yeah, my last plot will be in this Shimmering Coast. But I do have the common up here, and I was thinking about, in the pristine Northwest, I was thinking about just buying, selling that and purchasing something over here. I was also just considering going in deep and just going in one area. In other words, where I have my rare, just sell everything else and buy in that area so that all the land is contiguous. And it would also be around my brother's plot. So they had inferred in previous conversations that there may be some value in having plots close by so you can buy and trade, because there may be some kind of variable put into the game, whereas it takes time to transport from one land to another. So if you had to transport grain or ore or whatever you're producing, wood, and you're transporting it to another land that you have, plot of land or whatever, that if you're on one side of the map and you're trying to transfer it all the way to the other side of the map, it may take a week or something or other. So another variable out there. So I don't know. There's a lot of things to think about. Gathering, how many plots do you have, and where are you at on the map? Commons should not be slept on. If you get a common cheap, you can use it to store other players' resources and get paid for that. Plus, you will get SPS airdrop. I agree with that. And those are a couple of the other items I was thinking about, because they've, you know, obviously you get SPS, you know, and they've already mentioned, they've talked about where you could possibly just build a building and, you know, like you said, store resources. You could be like the guy that has the warehouse or the barn and silo that stores all the grain for other people and charge them for that. So I have 5 plots. One is in 43, 48, 51, and 110. So let's check the map out. They've spread the numbers out. When they did that reorganization, I see what they did. They took the numbers so they weren't all contiguous and scrunched up in particular areas, and they spread them out. So you're down here in Central Fire, yeah, Land of Prosperity. 43, 48, Area 51. 130. I like the name of the region. Yeah. Yeah. Shimmering Coast. I'm waiting for there too. So, if you're going to claim in 130, I will claim in 130 as well. Why not? Daggerdale. That sounds like a Dungeons and Dragons reference. I want to say the Dagger Coast or something like that in one of the lands. Anyway, or the Dagger Mountains. So if you want to go 130, I'll go 130 with my last one too. But I also like I also agree with the general sentiment that I've been thinking about scooping up some commons. And the whole point is I'm wondering kind of how low they're going to go. Reminds me of The Hobbit. Yeah, they have very name-centric like that as well, but it also reminds me of Dungeons & Dragons, which Dungeons & Dragons was kind of influenced by The Hobbit, right? So you're mostly 43, 48, 51. You're over in this area, Land of Prosperity, a lot. So I'll have to watch your video and check out what lands you got. I've been busy doing other things. Frankly, this week between land and the new game over on Splex, I've been kind of trying to squeak out a few videos, and I've been kind of busy. So today I had to recaulk the bathtub. So I do believe, though, that I'm going to keep an eye on the land market, and I believe that once they get, if commons get below 50, it's going to be very tempting for me not to go ahead and scoop up 5 or 10. Look for mountains and calderas. They're the only ones that produce ore. So that's another question. You know, I've seen a lot of these lands produce stone. I've seen some produce ore. Very few I've seen produce wood. And that kind of leads me to believe that the ones you don't see much of, they may be called for more. But then again, the ones I'm looking at here are only the ones for sale, right? People may be keeping the other ones. So I may be more interested in wood or ore versus stone or grain, which are more common, right? These are just general thoughts. Gathering says, I have 2 rare mountains, a common magical life plains, and a common jungle. Okay. What else would make a land more tempting to me or offer more value to me is if it has building in a box on it and one of the other ones. I would look for probably land that at least has building in a box on it, because let's face it, that's like $8 to $10 worth of value extra on that, right? So I'm just looking through here. See, most of these lands people have for sale produce stone. And at this point, we don't really know what the value of, stone, wood, grain. Obviously we know the value that all mining units will have to eat and will have to have grain. So you either produce your grain or you have to buy it off somebody, right? Hey, Alex, good to see you. Alex says, I got a magical water swamp. Nice. I have a plot with all 3 bonuses, and it's rare. Sale makes wood. That's nice. I have a magic water as well, or magic earth. It's a lake, but it's magic earth. So that is a nice pull, and you got the 3 bonuses on it. I only put the building in a box on mine, but we were discussing, going through the land market and what makes, what would make a good decision as far as strategy if you're going to buy any more. Matt mentioned there will be different types of ore, stone, etc. Yeah. A lot of this is to be seen, right? They're going to have value. Obviously, all these things are going to be used to create other things and produce other things. All of them are going to have a certain value. So, a lot of this is just extrapolation and making guesses. And Alex says, I'm going to build a lumber yard. That's a good point, because that's kind of what I was alluding to a few minutes ago. We were discussing all these lands for sale. Mostly are producing stone. Very few are producing lumber or wood. So that would lead me to believe that wood is in a deficit and may be rare or maybe demand a higher price? Gathering says cheapest plots yesterday were 50-ish. Now the cheapest is 65. Watch the prices continue to rise. That's a good question. A lot of it's guess. So basically you're saying you think it's already hit bottom. It's all a guess, right? So I was just been scrolling through these, and let's refresh. Yeah, the current cheapest is 65, but I would argue that these ones at 68 are a better value because they have building in a box on them. Alex says, I don't want to buy another Rooney or more max beta cards, so staying with my one plot with my guild mates are around me. Cheapest ore producing land is $148. Yeah, earlier Gathering was stating that ore is one of the more in demand or higher, maybe one of the rare things to get. Alex says, so if I need water or something, or that I can't get my friends around me, will help. Yeah, I mean, it's a complete going, and that's the way they arranged this game, right? They went at it from an aspect, and they've said this in multiple of the meetings, that they didn't want anybody to be able to play the whole game themselves. They wanted to you have to go, even if you have this huge kingdom, you're still going to have to go out and pay people for other things. They want people to interact. Gathering says having friends, guildmates is the same track will be key. Yeah, I agree. Because it goes back to the point where I was saying, and Alex, before he came on, we were talking briefly about my thought process of either going wide and buying a bunch of plots and only using commons, or going deep, so to speak, buying one or two or three nice plots, investing in really good cards to mine those plots, and just sticking with just a few lands versus going wide and using commons. So obviously everybody's going to have their different thought processes, but I think they're both valid kind of approaches. It remains to be seen which is going to be the best approach. And obviously what Alex is saying goes back to what I was talking about a little while ago. Do you really want to be spread out across the country, or do you want to have your holdings right in one area? And as Alex's point is, right in the area of your guild, so you can buy, sell, and trade in a very close vicinity and not have to wait for that potentially trade time back and forth for grain or whatever you're trading to get back and forth to you. Alex says deep is better for when you sell out. Less work. Yeah, that's a valid point. But I'm just trying, I kind of, I overanalyze things. When I'm getting ready to spend money, I don't care whether it's on a card game or buying a new guitar or whatever it is. I tend to overanalyze things, and I'll go to, say, for instance, we started off talking about this earlier, is I was throwing around in my head what cards I wanted to buy and stake on the land. Do I buy a max level beta common? Or like Gathering was saying, it might be a better choice to buy a few BCX of a gold foil, right? Maybe newer and stake that. So it's all a toss up. We did go over the matrix. I think everybody's seen the matrix on the white paper as far as what the cards were worth. Gathering says, I don't think you can go wrong buying a lot of cheap commons. You can rent them, store other resources, get daily SPS airdrop, produce variety of resources, etc. Yeah, I mean, two different ways to play the game, right? And frankly, I love it. I love this. I love the fact that there's not just this min-max approach, okay? What I hate is games where there's just one way to do something, and if you don't do it that way, you lose. So I think in this situation, you can have a variety of different ways to play. You can go at it from Alex's point of view, buy one plot, do your best on that one plot, buy really nice cards, put on it, and go for it. It's easy. It's easier to keep track of. It's easier if you want to sell it off, etc. And you're not spread thin, right? Or do you take that same money and buy, instead of the one, buy 10 plots, all commons, stake all max level commons on it, and go wide? I love the fact that we actually have a choice. Obviously, there are still a lot of variables that have not been filled in, but I love it. Alex says, beta max. I think death is the cheapest. Well, probably. And it really, going back to the Matrix, it really just depends upon, what kind of terrain you get, right? So, for instance, I got lake. I couldn't go with a swamp. I could go with a swamp, but I wouldn't get a bonus, right? I would have to go with earth or water. And you may be right. I haven't looked at the death cards because I did not have a land that would actually, yeah, my other land is desert. It still wouldn't benefit from a death card. So I was just looking at mainly the splinters that would give me a bonus, right? But everybody's going to be spread out. Everybody's going to have different types of lands, so it's going to affect all the. I think the key point here is get your cards now, because if you don't, you will have a less and a less selection of what you want to stake, and they're going to cost more. Gathering says, I did a poll yesterday. Which would you spend? Would you spend $160 on 3 commons, 2 rares, or a new plot? Problem is, max commons cost you 10,000 DEC, but the least amount of production points. Water. Alex says water rare beta max was $80. Yeah, that's when I looked at them yesterday. I think they're around the same today. So back to Gathering's point. Let me think about this. Max level commons. Yeah, they've already said the max level card is going to cost you 10,000, whether it's a common or whatever the rarity. Sorry, wrong page. So whatever the rarity is, whether it's common or legendary, if it's max level, it's going to cost you 10,000 DEC to stake. So from that point, see, I'm looking at the staking as kind of a nil value, because at this point, I believe that since they said staking, you get that 10,000 back. So I have a card. I want to change that card that's staked. I believe that I'll get that 10,000 DEC back. The question is that unstaking instantaneous, or does it take me a week or two to get that DEC back? In other words, if I want to flop cards that are staked on the land, am I going to have another 10,000 to lay down to restake and gradually get that other 10,000 back? But I do see your point in the fact that it's a better value to spend 10,000 DEC staking a legendary. However, as we know, there are a couple of variables there in the fact of mainly the multiplier that you get, right? So obviously, if I was going to stake a common card, a max level common card on my land, it would be like a beta, right? So, or I'm talking on my rare magic land. I'm not talking on common lands if I buy common lands. If I buy common lands, I think I've already decided I'm just going to throw commons on there, right? I'm going to get the best value I can and throw on there. But my rare land, I'm discussing, would it be better to max a beta common card and throw on there? Or to your point, go with a gold foil, 1 or 2 BCX of a gold foil newer card, which is maybe about the same price. Gathering says you don't have to spend 10,000 DEC per monster. You can use less if you are on a budget. Correct. But 10,000 is going to be if they're max. And they've stated that if they're maxed out, then it's going to cost 10,000, whether it's a common or legendary. But if they're less than a max level, yes, you would not spend the full 10,000. But I'm kind of looking at the staked value of the DEC as a non-price. I mean, it's the price there, but you're going to get it back, right? So The question is how fast a return time on that DEC. Currently, if you stake SPS and pull it off stake, I believe it takes 2 or 4 weeks to come back to you, right? Are they going to pull the same thing on that stake DEC? I don't know. I would like to see that the DEC staked is instantaneous. In other words, if I have card X and I want to switch it for card Y staked on the land, then whenever I unstake that card, I get that 10,000 DEC back and can use it to restake the new card, right? At this point, as far as I know, that's still a variable. So, and I still haven't figured out. I may look further into Gathering's point. I think I'm going to watch his video on that he made on the gold foil, his point on the gold foil BCX, one BCX being 2,500 too. So you could buy a new one. Like I said earlier, let's go into buy. Let's sort by just Chaos Legion for sake of argument and go legendary. So for instance, if you had a fire land, or a land that could use the fire splinter, you could go in with 1 BCX of Ifrit Rising for $67. You would get 2,500 BCX. I would still make the argument that a common beta with the multiplier would be better, because your common beta maxed out is going to be 1,000 times 5,000 for kind of roughly the same price. Alex says, I have beta max cards to go with the 50,000 DEC for it. Yeah. Also grabbed another 30,000 DECB before it sold out. I think that's a good call. I think all in total I had 60,000 DECB. I've spent 30,000 of it, so I think I'm down to 30,000. I don't think it'll go to waste because it'll just sit there until you use it, right? And basically in the big picture, you got a 20% bonus on your money. So I think there was good value there. And I would have to rely upon other people who are better at math. I'm sure a couple of the other guys are going to do the numbers, but I'm sure it helped the ecosystem. Let's see what, just for sake of argument, I just want to see what DEC is going for today. Wow, looked like it crashed a little bit, but let's look at it over. This is the month view, and it looks like it's back up to where it was mid-month last year. But for some reason it sank. You know, that's why I kind of like, I'm really hesitant in talking about the crypto part of this, because every time I've ever made a guess about what the crypto market's going to do, it just hasn't. And for as long as I've been playing this game, for 2 years, they've been trying to increase the value of DEC and SPS. And while it has somewhat in certain portions during the bull run, it's come back down. So I'm just playing it as a game, and I'm approaching it that way. Obviously, there's so much money involved. You really have to look at the value, and everybody looks at different pieces of value. Value is different to everyone. I think that's the best way I can say it. But I think land at this point is much more exciting to me as a separate sort of game within Splinterlands than actually playing the cards. I know that's probably going to fire some people up, but I'm really fired up about land. That's why I'm tossing around all these different variables, right? Alex says, yeah, don't speculate on the money. Just focus on playing a game and having fun. I agree. I've always said it. I said it in most of my videos. You have to have, you have to decide how much you can spend on this game safely, so that you don't overspend, and just stick with your budget. And if you stick with your budget, you'll be fine. don't FOMO. They try to get you to FOMO and spend a lot of money. If you have a lot of money and you can throw it around, more power to you, as you're blessed, right? But I live comfortably because I work a job, but I still see the need for a budget, and I have my gaming budget is a certain amount per week, and I spend it, and I'm fine with it. So, yeah, I mean, there's been a few different points during the game where my brother and I came up with these plans as far as buying and selling and making a little money and this and that, and they always seem to like not really exactly turn out right. So I've given up on that. I'm just looking at it from a game point of view. Now, I do think, like we discussed earlier, that I will be looking for, I will keep my eye on the land market. And I do believe that I'm interested in buying some commons. And to Gathering's point, I may be interested in buying some commons that produce ore. Alex says, I'm good. I'm young and already retired, but I don't go over 5K into this game. Well, congrats. I'm getting older and I'm not yet retired. I think over the last couple of years, if I added up what I've spent on the game, it's probably over 5,000, but I do it in a measured approach. In other words, I don't throw down a bunch of money at one time. And I look at it like this. Everybody has... It's my same argument that I've always given to people as far as spending money on gaming on a monthly basis. Everyone has a budget they spend on entertainment. And this is what I consider entertainment. Because these days, I don't go out much. Some people go out to bars, some people go out dancing, some people, there's every different variation of what people consider entertainment. But it all involves spending money. You go out to the movies. Go to movies and buy a large popcorn and a soda, you've spent $50, right? With the price of popcorn today. But you could spend that $50 in Splinterlands, right? Alex or Gathering says, how do you like Golem Overlord so far? And Alex says, I tried doing other games, but nope, I just stick with Splinterlands. I love Splinterlands, and I love Splinter Forge. And to Gathering's point, since we're in the last few minutes, I can go over if you guys want to go over. I don't have to cut it off at 12. We can talk about Golem Overlord. Alex, are you interested in Golem Overlord any? Alex says, I used the market to make the money. I bought Beta Max Legendary, then sold them, then used that money, but Beta can use the market to make it. Yeah, I mean, more power to you. I wish I was around during Beta. I do have some betas because when I was first coming in is, at the end of, let's see here. Yeah, I came in during the end of Untamed. So I do have some betas. In fact, my favorite summoner, Ulrich, I have a level 3 Ulrich, which I don't use so much anymore, but he's still there, and I do use him in guild brawls. But yeah, I guess the perfect picture of playing this game is getting some cards, having them appreciate in value, being able to sell them, and use them to, you either make a profit or buy other things within the game. It's a perfect picture, right? Alex says, no, I tried Splinter Forge, but only so much time in a day to play games, so I stay with Splinterlands. Okay, good point, valid point. So to Gathering's point, just briefly here, the Golem Overlord, let me refresh the page. This game very much reminds me of a few other games I've played in the past that are not were not blockchain games. They were just standard games. One comes to mind that was a Mafia something or other. But there's not a whole lot of action in this game. You can attack people, but the whole game is based upon increasing your stats and also staking part, which is the cryptocurrency. Part and shard are the cryptocurrency within the game. And you can attack people and get their parts that have not been claimed. And you can only claim every 8 hours. Now you can see down here at the bottom, I have 2 parts that's slowly going up. And somebody could attack me, and if their stats are better than me, they could get part of that. Gathering says, play Splinter Forge today and made 600 to 800 forge. Nice. And place on the leaderboards. Use that to improve my hero. Very nice. I have been playing silver lately because I kind of got beat out of gold lately. I might think it's been a few evolutions. I might go back to gold. But I have almost a max level silver warrior. And I've been doing pretty good in silver. I've been averaging I've been averaging about 5,000. Let's see where I am now. So I'm ranked 27. I've been averaging around 5,000 to 6,000 forge per boss. Alex says, water beta max are now 114. Floor price. I got some for 80. Now do I hold off selling them at 110? I don't know. I hate to speculate because once I say one thing, then something else happens. But from what I've seen, the cards are just going to continue to go up. And that's a function of people buying them to put on the lands. I do need to make some decisions today because as we go forward, the cards are just going to go up, I think. So let's just look at just a for instance of what I was looking at. Let's sort by beta, rare, water, and earth, which is what I was looking at yesterday for my land, right? So this rare, and we need 115 for max. I'm sorting by rares because yesterday I found that the rares were a better value than the commons. Oh, come on. I didn't want to put those in my... So, $126 versus going with commons takes 505. See, at this point in time for me, it would be cheaper to go with a rare, max level rare, than it would be for a common. I was thinking about the brownie as well. See, they're all in the same area, so why wouldn't I go with an epic, right? Alex says, put in max copies. Yeah, was 80 for a rare, but not anymore. Yeah, the rares have went up just since yesterday. But I think my main point, one of my main points is check everything because you never know, like in this case, when an epic is going to cost the same as a rare and a common. So if they all cost the same, why not go with the epic? You know what I mean? This was the other one I was looking at. It was obviously higher priced. Need 11 copies for max. And that one would be $206, which is about $100 more than any of the other options, right? And that would grant, I think we were looking at a max level common beta with the multiplier would give you 5,500 production points. Wrong page there. So 5,500, and then the rare would boost it up to like 6,400 or something like that. Roughly 1,000 more. And then epic a little bit more than that. Versus going with a chaos gold foil to Gathering's point and say, for instance, going in with 2 BCX. Sorry, I got too many tabs open. So if you went in with the gold foil and you went in with 2 BCX, it would be 5,000. You would almost have to have 3 BCX at 7,500. Alex says, I took them out at max prices. I don't try to look at prices to buy them and build to max. So I would almost have to, if I got 3 Jin Bilkas, that would be $210 and represent about 7,500 production points. Sometime building saves money, though. Saves money on what? Though. Well, I think we've covered a lot. We're running a little bit over here, so thanks everybody for dropping by. I think that this is going to remain on everybody's mind for the near future, especially until Land 1.5 releases and all the new stuff with Land 1.5 come about. And I'm sure that as we go along, I'll talk about this more in videos. I know Gathering will probably talk about this more, and we'll discuss it in next week's stand-up. With that said, thanks guys, and thanks everybody for stopping by. I hope everyone is doing well, and I will see you on the flip side.